Hello. How are we all doing? Oh, how is it December? I've got to wait now until Mike tells me that you can all hear me. But you could let me know if you could hear me. That would be grand.
Can hear you now.
Excellent. Right, I'm going to try and make the chat bigger to counter the fact I need to go to Specsavers, but I'm not leaving the house. Right. Oh, I was first. Hello, me. I was surprised as well. That's most unusual, but never mind. And then it was young Jonathan. Happy Hanukkah, young Jonathan. I believe that's wrapping up. I hope you've had a fabulous time. CQ, Deb. Yes, that's a chicken dinner for me. It wasn't chicken tonight, was it? It was a burger.
It was a burger. She's had chicken.
It was a very nice burger.
She had chicken at lunchtime.
Yes.
Very lucky
She's not
dog.
stopped eating.
No.
She's adorable. Right, who else have we got? Let's keep going. Hello, Renee. No, you're not first. Beat ya. And Peter, hello. I've got lots of app mentions here. What's going on here? Notion 2022. Oh, yes. Perfect opportunity to tweak and make a few changes, though. So have a think about it and enjoy it. Right. Hello, Peter. Damp South Cheshire. Oh, it's bad here. It is bad. It's cold and it's wet and it's windy. It's not good. Hello, Graham. You can tell me off if I miss anybody. Hello, Carol. And Brilliance is in as Brilliance. And who else have we got saying hello? Lots of chat. Was that Ted I saw there?
It was.
Hello, Ted. It just went flying past. You see.
Talking of Brilliance, I sent my Scouse friend a message on Teams that said, there's only me and Robbo left in that picture.
Yep, and I've got a feeling you'll last longer than he does. Unless there's a brown envelope involved. Not saying a thing, allegedly. Don't come for me. Right, if it's your first time and you're lurking, say hello. Because we're very friendly, we don't bite. Despite the name, we don't. And if you've been with us ages and not said hello yet, say hello. That would be grand. Oh, before we get going. No, you've been before.
That
definitely.
reminds
I recognise
me
you.
of Fantasy Football League. Hello!
Oh, that was a grand programme, that, wasn't it? When you and I used to have a TV and we watched it on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Oh, happy days. Right, let's get on with it then. So let me move that slightly sideways so I can see everything else. And technically speaking, it's just going to work. She said, because, that always works, doesn't it? Let's get on with it because we've got so much to squeeze in. Look at that. We have, for the week at MacBites headquarters, been a bit of a rare old busy week this week. Craft 2.0, as predicted, was released. So that was, I think we mentioned that about 2 weeks ago. Vivaldi 5 was sprung upon us, and some of us fared better than others. Spoiler, I did not fare well. Then we've got mock-ups in Eagle. That's only brief, just to show you what I've created in Eagle. Then we're going to customise the mock-ups that were part of the Advent calendar. Then we're going to be coding with Braintoss. Don't panic, don't mean that kind of coding. Anyone can do this. Mike is then doing his calculated columns, and I am showing you all of the custom compiles that were in the file that we looked at last week, pulling it all together this week. Right, we're broadcasting at 1080p. What has YouTube done to you? It managed this week to get me at 360 on this video, and I didn't notice. I just thought it was like old, and then I realised it wasn't, but that's YouTube for you. While you are down in the lower right-hand corner, fiddling with the cog, there's a thumbs up button very close by. You could tap that. That would be grand. So, what's gone on at MacBites headquarters this week? Well, it all started on the Saturday. It was a busy day and the end of an era, wasn't it? Well, we'll come on to that. But we had 8 shows. I almost forgot book club because usually it's a Sunday, but it wasn't. It was the Saturday, but it's the unofficial one. It's the unofficial one that's dedicated to getting things done by David Allen. So, it started and it's strictly an hour. Well, you know, it wasn't strictly an hour. So 2 hours, 5 minutes. But getting things done. During the session, I figured having the book on my desk might be an idea. The Getting Things Done book. The one by David Allen. So I sent Mike off to retrieve my paperback copy of GTD from the extensive library we have here at MacBites headquarters. And would that I would like to think it was that well organised. Clearly it looked more like this. On account of the fact Mike was struggling, Edwin Bliss. No, I had no idea either. until he returned with that. Now, fair enough, it's called getting things done, but let's be honest, it's clearly not the David Allen one. The phrase, send a man to do a woman's job, springs to mind instantly. Updated for the 90s, though. Hey, at least it was the 1990s. Actually, it's not at all a bad book. It just wasn't the one I was looking for. No, Mike couldn't find it at all. I wonder where we've put that, because for years and years it's lived on that shelf. Clearly disappeared. Anyway, at 8 o'clock on Saturday, it was very important because we were going into Brooklands 196 by request, where it was our end of year party. Early, I grant you, but you know we break up early for Christmas here. In the midst of it, the Tesco delivery arrived. Was it this week they were ringing you and you totally missed the call?
It
so
was.
Mike was trying to ring back to find out who was ringing him because obviously it didn't have caller ID. Oh, great fun that was. Which took us through to Sunday. We'd been warned what to expect on Sunday. Storm Arwen. Yeah. The UK never fares well with snow. And this year was no different. Yes, that is a police car, trapped. They must have been on their way somewhere. I wonder where that could have been. Because Tan Hill Inn is the highest public house in the UK. Lovely place, usually really nice to visit. It was full because there was an Oasis tribute act on. Only when they came to go home, they were going nowhere. But did I mention it was a pub? Messages were coming out of don't send help, or at least don't send help until the beer runs out. But the snow was horrific. It is very high there, though, isn't it, Mike?
It is.
I think we can see that from the M62, but it's very, very, very rural, cold, and I have no idea where the sign is heading. We, of course, had our own little problems here. We had cloud calamities, not a tornado. No, it was worse than that. It was technological cloud calamities. Google Drive. Yes, I'm looking at you. Google Drive. It was serious stuff. It was all to do with shared files and changes that Google made unilaterally in 2020 that are only actually taking effect now. Bad words were said when I came to access some MacBite stuff that Mike owned, that I actually had open in the window. And as soon as I clicked it, it refreshed and said, you're going to need access to this. And I thought, well, just a minute, I've just had access to it. So that took the rest of the day, didn't it?
It did.
As we tested what was working, what wasn't working, and what might be working on Dropbox. We might have to move. That was great fun. The weather was predicted to be a tinge on the chilly side, -5 degrees. It was chilly. Not only was it chilly, it was windy as well. But that only meant that on Monday, oh, how picturesque is that? Hiding in plain sight or not? Can anybody spot anything in that picture apart from trees and snow? Anything? It's right in front of you. Let's take a closer look. Oh, she had a ball. Look at that face. Romping through the snow. Clearly made for it, because you would barely see her. And as you can see, the snow, yeah, we definitely got snow. It was definitely cold. It was. She also had another go. You'll see, this one's more obvious as she careers towards the camera. And clean past it. And carries on. Oh, what a snow dog. She had a complete blast. Renee says, couldn't they sleep there like IKEA did? Yes, that's what they did. And they were fine until the beer ran out, which I think it lasted like 3 or 4 days. And then it was like, oh, no, I'm going to need to be rescued now. So that took us on to Tuesday. Tuesday, it was pretty chilly again. There was even snow for her to play with the following day. And she had another blast. But it was cold, wasn't it? So you came back in absolutely wet through. That was great fun. Which took us on to Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday's the first day of Christmas as far as I'm concerned. In fact, probably about July the 30th is the first day of Christmas for me. But first day officially of Christmas because it was the MacBites Advent Calendar. And as promised on day one, it was the custom compile in Scrivener, which we delivered to you far more effectively than Royal Mail delivered anything to me. It didn't end well when Amazon decided to entrust Royal Mail with my latest collection of deliveries. Not only did it not arrive between 10:20 and 2:20, it didn't arrive at all. This was despite us laying the man traps and deploying surveillance equipment. It was still a case of watch this space. Right up until the following morning, it said it was due for delivery on the 1st. So not only couldn't they get it here, but they couldn't actually update the system either. Spotify did a little bit better, and they delivered what's known as Wrapped to me. So let me know if you're on Spotify and if you got your Wrapped. Basically, it's a summary of your year on Spotify. So they do it every year. I was quite surprised as to what my top 5 songs were. Wasn't expecting that at all. Well, we'll go through it and you'll see. Yes, Human, I do love the song. I do love all of those songs. They just surprised me that they were my top 5. Then we had my top 5 genres. They didn't surprise me in the slightest, with a possible exception of dance pop. But I think that's because I love the London Boys. So that's probably why. I also listened, and I couldn't believe that, 1,686 different artists. I don't think I could name you 100 different artists, but somehow I managed it. But as it says, I got serious with one. But which one? 2 Hours Traffic. You will never have heard of them, but I do love them. They brought out their last album, I think it was about 2013, and unfortunately they couldn't make music pay, so they split up. But I still listen to all of their stuff. I love it. And clearly, as it says, I couldn't get enough of Jezebel, which was the first song of theirs I ever heard, and probably my favourite one of theirs. But I do love everything from them. Where did that take us? Oh yes, my top artists: 2 Hours Traffic, ABBA, The Killers, The London Boys. I did mention The London Boys, and Queen. Last year, my number 1 artist was Queen. I remember that. But interestingly, none of the top songs were from the top artists. That I did find interesting. 33,215 minutes, if you're wondering, is 553.5 hours, which is 23 full days glued to music. What's not to love? There you go. This one got me my audio aura. Music moods. Confident and empowering. That sounds about right. I reckon that has come from Raw. Because as we head there, that was my binge song. So talking of confident and empowering, Raw's one of my favourite tracks. And it looks like I had it on repeat play. I vaguely remember finding it and listening to it. So yeah, that'll be right as well. I just love that. That is fantastic. Which took me on to Thursday. We had the prayer mats out on Thursday, didn't we? I got a mail from Royal Mail. It's all right. It was an email, obviously, because they wouldn't actually get a physical one here, would they? My parcel was going to be delivered. This is not the same missing in action delivery. This is another one. But fair play to them, against all the odds, all the stuff that was missing in action, they surpassed themselves and delivered the lot. And more besides. They were so proud of themselves, they sent me a separate email for each delivery telling me that they delivered it. Now, if they'd have delivered it when it was due, I would have been happier, but there you go. At least it arrived, because Amazon were talking in terms of if it didn't arrive, they'd give me a refund. But seeing as though it was a sale item, I didn't want a refund, I wanted the item at the sale price. But they must have been very busy to entrust Royal Mail with anything, because I wouldn't entrust Royal Mail with anything. So it was also day 2 of the MacBites Advent Calendar, and it was all about branding and where I get the branding assets from that I use. Instead of getting the 2 pixels by 2 pixels thumbnail that's on a website, no, these are SVGs. First site was Logo Wine, which I'm sure we've looked at before, but literally you can get anything on there, including all of the football stuff. And the second one was World Vector Logo, which probably has an even wider, broader category. But a lot of them are American and I've never heard of them. But I do resort there when I can't find it anywhere else. Which took us nicely on to Friday today. And it was day 3 of the Advent Calendar with our mock-ups. So we have 3 mock-ups to play with. That's the single one kitchen one. But the 2 that I'm going to be working with is this one, which is the lounge one, and this one, which is the bedroom one. So hold that thought. We'll be looking at that very, very soon. But biggest news of the day, we're on holiday. Yes, the world has been warned. We are off for 5 weeks. I'm off for 6. So, any calamities, that'll be at our door. But, we might make it through this one with no calamities. You never know, do you? Are those logos for commercial use? I believe they are brilliant. They're just a collection, and I think they've been regenerated. But obviously, I use them on slides. Have I used them in anything print? I think I have. But it's a good place to start. Put it like that. It's a very, very good place to start. Didn't mention... Oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, because it's been that busy trying to put the presentation together. I'll add it. There you go. But it was expected, wasn't it? I expected them to win. Mike was a bit on the nervy side. 1-1. I took one for the team, didn't I?
You did.
Headed off to the toilet. Next minute, United scored. I said, fantastic. Took one for the team. Before I could get back, before I could get the door unlocked, they'd equalised. So, yeah, it was all equal again when I got back. Right, so... let's have a look at the first news of the week, which is Craft. Craft 2.0 was announced on Craft's first birthday, which was 2-3 weeks ago. I don't know why, knowing it was coming up to their birthday, they didn't do the two together, unless they wanted more exposure on the fact that it was 2.0. Although something else happened and that could account for it. But they've announced what they're calling a developer preview, which you can download now and play with. The big news is that in essence, they're opening it up with an API, but they're calling it extensions. And the idea is that anybody can develop an extension. And they are going to be completely open source, so you can take one and customize it in any way that you need. So it's up to the community to start developing extensions. Pretty similar to the way that Obsidian works. The Obsidian community is amazing, and they just create custom things on demand. So that's the big news from Craft, that extensions are on the way. I wouldn't try, unless you're 100% confident, I wouldn't necessarily try it at the moment. And be careful with Craft itself, because it is only in preview. It's going to be finalised at some point in the new year, but it's probably stable enough to use. And why they may have waited is the news that came out of Apple that Craft won the Mac App of the Year, the App Store's Best of 2021. So definitely something to have a look at if you work with that. Next thing to look at. This one was completely out of left field. No news that this was incoming until it installed itself, which would have been fine, but there's a story with that. The big thing they've added is Vivaldi themes. Now, you might think, just a minute, you've demonstrated this and there were themes there before. There were, you're right. And I did. But we needed a dirty hack to back them up and share them, and we don't need that anymore because now it's all proper. So that is the default Vivaldi theme. But in the themes section, you now have a library of themes, and you can choose one of those and flick to the editor and then edit that theme. Also, if we look a little bit further down, it says open theme and export theme. So you can import and export all of the themes, which would be great if, when it installed, it didn't nuke my theme and delete it. Naughty, naughty. So I ended up looking at something that looked like that with a big red list of open tabs on the left. Hideous. Absolutely hideous. But the good news is Mike had updated his. I actually went across to Mike's machine and I thought he uses the same theme I do. There is absolutely zero chance he's updated because he never updates anything. So I'll just grab the numbers from there. It'll be faster. To find he'd updated. But on his install, it didn't nuke the theme, just mine. Did I feel persecuted? Oh, you bet I did. But you can make your own. So what I did was I exported it from Mike's machine, imported it onto mine, and then started tweaking. So some of the things aren't quite the same. So I have my highlights as orange, but I also have one of the tabs, the active tab, darker than the rest. Otherwise, I have no idea where I am. You can also download themes from Vivaldi.net. So people are sharing themes like this one, which looks the Vincent van Gogh thing, Starry Night. They're using that for their theme, and they put it and made it available for everybody. So you can actually go and download that and install them. In fact, the blue doesn't look bad. I'm just not sure about the background of the thumbnails, but never mind. That's what we've got. So I thought I'd show you what I'd done in mine once I'd recovered it all. So let's get Vivaldi out. Where are you? Let's get the new page and put it on the right screen. There we go. Right, so to get into it, you need to go into the preferences and you need to go down to themes. And within here, you've got, I did download Starry Night, have a look at it. But this is my Midnight Orange, my preferred one. I've called it Midnight Orange 5.0 because I did have to make some changes to it. But once you select your theme, so you can select any of these, and it instantly applies them. That's what it did to mine. I went, that one was foisted upon me, which is bad enough. You know, that's dazzling. Oh, is that hideous? No, I can't use that. I definitely can't use that. So I changed it back to Midnight Orange, which looks like that. I can live with that. Right, so what you can do in here is you can select one in the library view, which is library at the top, and you can switch to the editor. And in the editor, you can name it. You can provide colours and overrides in the window there. You can specify a background. And I don't have a background. I just have it like the colour that you can see it there, which is the colour that's over on this bit. But you can have a background if you want. And again, that comes through into here. So you can see the background in there. I should do a waves one, shouldn't I? But I pretty much have it set to no image. You've also got settings in there as well, where you can blur it, and you've got corner rounding and transparency, and whether you have transparent tab bars or backgrounds. Once you've got all of that sorted out, you can go into here and you can export that theme like that. So if I put that on my desktop, that was untitled, but never mind. I can export that, and then that can be saved to a cloud service. And if it ever gets nuked again, I can go back and just install it. Oh, Kimmy's mad at Vivaldi lately. You can't use it very well on some genealogy sites. You wish the site would update to work on all browsers. Yeah, sites like that tend not to, don't they? When I switched to Opera back in 2000, 2001, I used to write to every site that didn't work and complain. What I would do if I was complaining about it today is I would say it's not accessible. Because if it doesn't work on Vivaldi, it's not accessible. So if you go at them from the accessibility perspective, and section, is it 508? 508 accessibility.
It's 508, isn't it?
Yeah, then they might actually do something about it. So that's one option. But that means that I'm now safely backed up. And my content's backed up, just in case the unthinkable happens and I end up with it pink. Oh, actually, that doesn't look that bad, she said. Clearly, I'm no, I need to go back there. But that is what we've got with themes. I did have to change it. So over here, it returned the lines between it. So basically, there's a frame around each one. And the active one is much, much darker than all of the others. So I did need to change, make a few tweaks, but it worked. It worked. So, update to Vivaldi. Right, where are we going now? And why does that look like that? Right, so mock-ups in Eagle. Eagle is the app that we demonstrated for the last 2 weeks. It is a digital asset management solution. And differently to Bridge, because I've used Bridge for the last few years now, there were others like Pixar and PicSave, but the problem with them is they're just not very, very well supported. Eagle is a one-off payment of $29.95. It's probably worth 10 times that. Seriously. So what I decided to do was not create one almighty library. I decided to split the libraries up. So I thought I'd show you what I've done with the mock-ups. So let's get Eagle. There we go. That's not Eagle, is it? Oh, if you could type. Right, there we go. So this was the one that we had that was the MacBites one, and we used in the demo. But beautifully in here, instead of having to go up to library and then choose one, and it does remember, so it does have like these are the recent history that you've opened. You don't even have to do that. You have this drop down over on the left, which is pointing to MacBites at the moment, but I can from there choose my mock-ups. This one should be familiar to you. That's the one that you've just seen in the presentation. So that presentation was made up of one image. So all that flying around that went on, it wasn't separate images, it was one image. So it was a mock-up. And these are all the mock-ups that I've got at the moment, 261 of them. So some of these were free, some of them were from Envato. These of the AirPods are a scream. How many different views of AirPods have you got? But they all came from one thing, that. And then I've got a range of others that I use in different circumstances. So I have all of my mock-ups in here. The beauty of this is that that's the one that I used for the Spotify thing. That's what it actually looks like. We will be going back to that. But this view that we're looking at is just all. It's all the mock-ups that I've got. And I actually made a point to Mike that when I come to do a presentation, it's like reinventing the wheel, particularly with Apple Watch mock-ups. So I thought to myself, why don't you just create a library of them? So the very first thing that went in here was my Apple Watch mock-ups. So the one you will see later is that one. Only it doesn't look like that because obviously I've changed the screen of it. But in here, I can create smart folders. So there are all the wallpapers for the 24-inch iMac from 2021. At the moment, I haven't created that much in the way of smart folders, but I can still work by filtering up here. And these have been tagged. So if I am looking for an Apple Watch, I can just put a tick in the box and it will filter out and show me the Apple Watches. I've also got in there, so I could put iPhone. But another point I made to Mike was, you know, it's all very well tagging anything as an iPhone, but on occasion you might want a specific iPhone. This was an iPhone 11, but you'd probably get away with that being a 12 or a 13. But some of the occasions, particularly when it was MacBites Siri's 10th birthday, when MacBites Siri arrived, he's like Doctor Who. He has different bodies. And when he arrived, he was a 4S. So I would need to know from these which are which. Do you have a 4S? Do you have a 5? There's an 8. So what I've done in the tags is, if it's an iPhone, it's tagged iPhone. But if it's a specific type of iPhone, so say I'm looking for a 13 Pro, then I have them tagged with that as well. So that's what I've got in there. I wanted to show one thing in here, which could be an iPhone 13. I can't remember. This one. So with this file, this was from Elements. So I'm showing you this now before we head off into the free mock-ups to show you the difference. Why would you pay for assets when you can get them for free? Well, this one here, I'm actually going to open it with Photoshop. This is because Affinity Photo is running appallingly slow. It's taking 28 bounces in the dock to actually open. Photoshop is faster. Whoever thought I'd ever say that? But what I've got in here, which is not full screen because it's gone strange, right, is in the layers, I have in here a completely independent layer for each of these designs.
Ted wants to know if Eagle would be appropriate for his primary photo manager.
Yes, you could do that. One of the things in Eagle that I didn't show you that is relevant is where these came from. So if I am putting that on a YouTube video, YouTube could flag me and say, where's your license for using that? It's here. There's a field for the URL, and that's the URL of where it came from. So I could instantly go back to it and download my license to use it as well. So yes, it would work great for photos. There's a lot that you can do in there with it. Absolutely it would. So can we just keep zooming out so we can see stuff here? Right, these are all independent, by which I mean, if I toggle off the main device, you would never know it was there. If I toggle off some of these others, you would never know they were there. So if I wanted to really simplify it, I can just toggle them off and then do a different export. Each of these is completely independent. So when you open up the device or the design, you have in here your place your design. And when you click that, double click it, it opens up the smart object and you are adding one single smart object. So you've got in this file 10 smart objects. But toggling them off doesn't leave you with a mess behind. Each one is isolated on its own layer. This is the kind of thing that you do pay for to give you complete control over what it looks like. It wasn't on an orange background when it started. It was on blue. And while that might be fine, not for what I want. The devices aren't clear enough. Plus the fact it's MacBites-ish, so it needs to be orange. So I can customise that in that kind of way. And I can take away any of these. So if this one at the top, was that number 3? Yeah, if I don't want to see that because, I can't see enough of it, it's just making it untidy, I can literally just turn it off. When you're working with free mock-ups and free assets, they're not necessarily designed to the point that you can do that. All will become clear when we have a look at them. But bear that in mind, that a paid-for one gives you the ultimate in flexibility. So let's come out of there. We don't need to save it. Go on Photoshop, away you toddle. Right, what I do have is the mock-ups, the free mock-ups. So let's have a look at that one for a start. Right, they come in Photoshop format, but they work just as well in Affinity. So I'll be working with these in Affinity. So there were 3 of them, 17, 18 and 19, I think. I'm not going to touch the kitchen one, that's fairly basic. But I wanted to show you, what if you wanted to customise these? Now, technically, it should be really easy. But practically it's not. And it's the fact that they're free and they can't put the effort in, the time involved, to make them as flexible as they could be. But you can do this yourself. Right. Kim says that's the truth about the free ones I seem to use. Right. Oh, Carol says Eagle will hold DNG files. That's awesome. Right, well, hopefully this will solve your problem, Kim. You're going to start with a free one, but you're going to customise it to what you need it to do. So I will open this up with Affinity Photo, which luckily I had opened before. Otherwise, we'd be waiting 20 minutes while it thought about it. Right, first thing to do with a free mock-up is like, well, how does it work? Well, we have the main layers here. If we toggle that off, the whole lot disappears. If we want to edit that poster, because it's that poster there, let's draw around that there. If we want to change that, then the good news is that is a smart object and we can do that, but only up to a certain point. And this says poster, edit this. So if I go into there, that's the poster and I can edit it. So in here, I could put something. Let's just draw a box over it and put a gradient in it. So we've made a change. Could do with a gradient that's a little bit prettier than that, couldn't we? Let's put a nicer colour on there. Anything had better be nicer than that. There we go. Right, that'll do nicely. And come out of there and it's updated. Great. So far, so good. Right, just so we're back to exactly the starting point that you would be at, I'm going to go back into there and just simply grab that and get rid of it. So this is what you're faced with. Now, what I would like to do with this is change the entire layout. I would like to be able to take that photo and I'd like to make it bigger, but I'd also like it to be landscape, not portrait. Because what I want to put in it is a MacBites poster, and the MacBites posters are landscape, not portrait. So I thought about it and thought, well, the layers are going to be in here. And it says there's the poster. Indeed it is. And we've got a brightness here. So let's toggle that on and off. And in essence, it's muting the colour slightly so it matches the scene. But that's all it's doing. So I'm thinking, well, just a minute, where's the frame? So if I take this away, there's I can see the frame, so it's not that one. And it's not that one either. Oh dear. And the problem with this is that this background, or base layer as it's called, that frame is part of the background. You can't edit it. It's uneditable. So what must have happened is they've taken a photo and that was on the wall and they've just layered on the top of it the poster. Which means you can't change the frame colour, you can't turn it round, you can't make it any bigger. Not good news. But we can fix this. So even with a free one, as long as you know what you're doing, you can fix it. This is how I would start. I would say here, instead of base, that is background. So you don't have to change the layer name, but it just makes sense to me. I would also take it out of this main layers, because that's really going to be the frame and the artwork. So I'm naming it so it makes sense to me. Obviously, the frame and the artwork have got to go above the background layer. Right, now we're getting somewhere. In here, I'm going to toggle these on because I can toggle them off at the group layer there. Right, which leaves us with this. So I'm turning everything off apart from the background. Okay. So what do I need to do first? Well, I'm going to need to elevate this to its own layer. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and have a look at what we've actually got. And what we've got, there's some shadow behind here, multiple layers of shadow. But ultimately, it's a frame with a black frame there. Right, so let's have a look at it. And I do mean, let's zoom in closely. Look at that. And I'm going to get the marquee tool to make a selection. So I'm going to select it like that. Now, as I move down, it could go out, which it has done. So by the time I get down to here, I'm selecting part of the wall. One way to do this would be to carry on regardless and fix it later. The other would be to acknowledge that and fix it now. So fixing it now would just mean deselect and start the selection from the bottom corner here rather than the top. I'm going to do the trickier way, which is fix it later. So I'm going to move across here and I'm looking for the edge of the frame over here. So let's move back a smidgen. Right, probably around there-ish. Right, to check that, I'm going to scroll up and make sure I've not got anything else in it. And that's looking pretty good at that point. Now you can see it's running out, but we're not going to worry about that. Because if we select this, then we're going to have stuff at the bottom that we don't want. So that at the bottom is spot on right. So at the bottom it's all right. Where it's got a problem is on the left-hand side. So I'm going to attempt to move across here. And I'm going to start from this point, but this time in my selection, I'm holding the Option key down. When I hold the Option key down, I get a minus sign. So if I want to take out that, as I go up, it deselects that bit. It will end up at the top that I'm taking out a column of pixels that are dark, but that's absolutely fine. So now I've got the right selection. Right, you need to make sure before you do anything else that you have the background selected that has that frame on it. And then all you need to do is copy and paste. And it will paste, she said. Don't start. That looks better. It will paste on its own layer here. So that is now going to be the frame. So if I toggle the background off and I toggle the selection off, you can see we've actually got the frame now isolated from everything else. So far so good. But on the background layer, if we were to move this frame, which we could do, just grab the move tool and move it. Yeah, but we've still got that one behind it. So we've still got a problem. So toggling off our new frame and going back to our background layer, I'm going to do this next bit with a layer so we can see, we can take it back to the before. So I actually have a macro that adds a repair layer. But all a repair layer is just, add a new layer. I just automate it because it has the word repairs on it. Then we need to inpaint, and inpaint is this tool here, inpainting brush tool. And instead of working on the current layer, because there's no pixels on the current layer, I'm going to say current layer and below. And then I'm going to get rid of this. So I need to draw all the way around it. I will probably need to finesse this irrespective, but I've selected everything in there. The corners are the tricky bit. And let go, and it will have a think about it, and it will get rid of at least the majority of it. Right, I need a little bit more work here. You can see a little bit of ghosting, but what you can do at that point is you can go in and just focus on one bit. So we can definitely see that corner needs work there, but you can work on just a little bit, and you will get rid of all of the ghosting that's there. This worked perfectly first time in rehearsals, then doesn't it always? Right, let's do that. That's okay at the top. I think we need a bit more there, and then we are probably going to be okay. Awesome stuff. Right, so we fixed the wall. Usually that's with a tin of Dulux and takes me 10 times longer. We fixed the wall. We've got rid of what was on it, but actually we haven't. It's still there. We've just got repairs on a repair layer that look like that. But they're together, so that's fine. So what I would do with that is then group those. So that's the background and they are together. But if I ever need to go back and see what it looked like before, I can do that. Right, we bring the frame back like that. It doesn't look bad as it is, but we are going to need to add some shadow to it, etc. But not yet. Right, at the moment, it's independent of everything else. So there's nothing to stop me with my move tool. So the move tool. Doing what I want with that in terms of rotating it and in terms of scaling it. Or even scaling it one way, which... There we go. So I could do all of that, but the issue with that is it isn't going to match up with the poster. Oh dear. So don't do that. Okay, take that back to how it was before, which was there, and move it first. Get it married up with the poster first. So in the frame and artwork, we've got the poster's brightness and we've got the actual poster, and there's our frame. Well, it might as well go in that group. So if we pop it into there and make sure we turn the entire group on, doesn't look that much different. Okay. But now it's in one group, we can work on the frame and the artwork, and now it will rotate with it. Awesome stuff. So I'm going to rotate it, and then I'm going to stretch it. And I'm aiming for 16.9. So if I went for that and that bit there, no, not you. If we make that 900 pixels, that will give me my 16.9. Oh, you're not doing it, are you? Come on. Let's actually type it in then. Right, that's now a 16:9 ratio. And all I need to do with it is pop it into the right place, which would be about there. I can make that bigger at that point as long as it's in the right ratio. So if I wanted it to be much bigger, I could do that, put it in place, as long as it's a 16:9 ratio. So we'll worry about that when we've got the poster in it. But at the minute, it's 16:9. Right, now we need to grab the poster. That's where Eagle comes in. What poster should we have? So we need MacBites. And we need posters, and we'll go for those there. So we'll choose one of these posters. I did choose one of my favourites, bearing in mind, is this the bedroom one? It is. And who wouldn't want this one in the bedroom? So let me go and find it. You know, you wouldn't. But you know, it's show 94 and it's got to be done. Right, so I'm going to pop in Mike's Bot. Love that show. Right, we need to get that in the right place to work. And the minute it's just pushed it up here. Right, you could do this where you just drag it in like that, but there's a better way, which is in the artwork itself where it says edit this, you go into it and that's the right place to put it. In here, I haven't rotated that, right? So I'm just going to copy that. Have we grabbed that? Let's copy that. In here, right. I haven't rotated it because I've rotated the artwork at the other end. So I just have to make sure in here that this is rotated the way I want it and then sized the way I want it. So let's grab that in there like that. Now, it's not the right size, but it is the right size at the other end. So there's an opportunity here if I size it like that. I know it looks not right at this end, but I've got a feeling it'll come right at the other. It just might be the upside down. You're going to have to make sure in this point that this is turned the way that you want it. But you can come back and change that as you want. There we go. There's Mike's Bot. And although it looks a little bit squashed, I've done the rescaling at this end. So in here, it looks absolutely fine. Do you know, I think you should all have Mike's Bot above your bed. Now, at this point, we don't have the shadow that we had, but we do have the frame and the artwork on an isolated layer. So there's nothing to stop us going in here into the layer effects and choosing out a shadow and turning it on and then making some tweaks. So let's add something that's that big we can see it, even if we have to zoom in. Let's take the intensity up a bit. Oh, you're starting to see it now. And we see that? See it appearing? So subtle, but by adding the shadow behind it, it actually lifts it off the background and looks like it's sat on the wall. So let's go into that. And now you can do whatever you want with this. So we could have it as big as you like and centered over there. And there's Mike's Bot on your wall. Who doesn't want that? Now, that is how you take free artwork where the work in terms of the smart object has been done. But if you remember back to what we had before, so let's turn these off. That was what we started with. But that was what we ended up with. So you can make dumb smart objects intelligent by lifting what they're sat on top of off the background and make it part of the foreground and part of the smart object by adding it to the right folder. Okay, that was an easy one. There's a more difficult one. Right, we will save that. Oh, what are you doing? You're putting it in all kinds of places here when you should be in data. So let's stick it in there. Right, another way to work, and that would be, oh, we're being silly today. Right, that was that one. I'm going to move on to number 19. Right, number 19, which is this mock-up, and it has exactly the same issue that the other one did, only we're not going to do it in Photoshop because, you know, we'd only end up crying, wouldn't we? In my case, like, where's X feature and where's Y feature and why have you moved it? No, we will open that up in Affinity Photo, just like the last one. The principle is exactly the same, but again, start by looking at what you've got, because in here, it's not right to start with. If we zoom in, it's like, what's going on here? We've got the main layers, that's selected everything, but there's a line here. Something's wrong to start with. So when I go into it, I've got the poster. Oh, the poster's not too bad, but what's going on with that? And it's this here, it's the reflection. It's not in the right place. So that needs putting in the right place to start with. But also, if you zoom in even further, that doesn't particularly match up. There's a gap. So in terms of the poster, I could actually make the poster that little bit bigger so we don't have that gap. That looks better. Right. So I've done the real basic fixes. Then I need to look at it and see, well, what's where? And this is where I would edit the poster. So very similar to the other one. These are the main layers. But again, if we turn off the poster, that frame is burnt into the background. It's not where we can edit it. And that's what we need to do. So I will take the base or background out of there and put it right at the bottom. So I'm keeping, instead of main layers, that's going to be the frame. I need to do exactly the same with this. So I'm going to add myself a repair layer. I'm going to go and get the inpainting tool, always making sure that it's the current layer and below. And I'm going to get rid of it. But before I get rid of it, I actually need to put the frame in here, and I haven't done that yet. So I do that by selecting it. So I'm going to need to zoom into this really closely and grab just what I think we need. So let's see if it runs out or not. I think this one's okay. Certainly not as bad as the other one. Keep going. There we go. That looks fine. So I'm going to go across to this side, and hopefully this side will look as good as the other. So it was 1 pixel up, which is there. And if we go up to the top, that is looking fine. Great. So at that point, make sure you're on the base layer. Copy. Paste. And that is now the frame. So I'm going to call that frame. This one up here at the moment is artwork. So it's going to be frame and artwork, because I'm going to put the frame from here inside that group with that one. And if we toggle that back on, turn the whole thing off, you can see, yes, we've got the frame, but it's not the frame from in here. It's the frame that's on the background we're about to nuke with the repairs. So in here, and we can probably make that a bit bigger this time, and get rid of the whole thing off the wall, as we've already got a safe copy of it. And away you go. Don't put a lamp on the wall. I think yesterday it put a leaf on the wall. Perfect. No, not quite. Shadow at the top. That will do nicely. Right, next thing. I can put this back on. Doesn't look any different, does it? Apart from the shadow. But this time we want something different. We don't just want to do what we did last time, where at this stage we could scale this, we could rotate this, but no. What we want to do is put the artwork in. And what artwork did I have in? Let's have a look. I picked the Mike's Bot again. I was insistent that we have that one. Right, let's go into there. That's my poster. So I want to add this in there and scale it. So let's get that on there, like that. And we're good to go. I also, though, I wanted a whole range of them. So what this is going to look like, can I preview this for you? I can, but it's tiny. Tell you what, let's open it. That's what I want. So I need 3 of them, not just one of them. So I want to go from that to that. What's going to happen there, I wonder? Well, let's have a look. We've already got the frame and the artwork together. We're going to put these two together, and that's going to be the background. I'm going to treat it as one, just like last time. But we're going to have to do some magic with this. Right, one, it needs to be a bit smaller. Well, that's okay. We can do that. And we can put it in place. And we can duplicate it. So by dragging it across. Now that is actually probably still too big. So we need to get 3 of these on the wall. So let's make them a bit smaller. Right, so I'm going to have one next to it. And I'm going to move that 70 pixels that way. I am going to duplicate that one. And move that 70 pixels the other way from the edge. 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. I'm going to grab hold of these and put them in position. Great. Now all I need to do is to change the artwork. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Right, well, what happens if I do that? So I'm going back to this edit this, which is what it's telling you to edit. And it's the one in the middle because I've duplicated it the other way. If I go into this, and there's Mike's Bot. But if I wanted, one was Rude Awakenings. There's Rude Awakenings. So if I bring Rude Awakenings in here, what will happen? I'll just save that and we'll go back to it. Hang on, what's going on here? Let me get rid of that lot. Interesting. All right, let's try that again. Rude Awakenings, come on. Rude Awakenings. Right, let's get you in the right place. Right. Sacrilege. Covering up Mike's Bot. Right, let's have a look at that. Not what we're looking for. But that's the default behaviour of a smart object. If you change one instance of it, you change all of them. Which can be great if you're using smart objects as a layout for wedding images or something, and you want them different sizes, but the same image. But that's not what we want. That's not what we want at all. So I will go back into the poster, edit this, and grab hold of Rude Awakenings and get rid of it. Right, so we're back where we were. Right, Photoshop has a mechanism for separating those, so they're not all the same. But we can do that anyway. In Affinity Photo. Right, so we've got a frame and artwork, and that's going to be, what number was that? Is it 84? 84, 94? 94. Right, so that was show 94. This one over on the right needed to be plucking plectrums, which was 95. So I'm going to change the names of these so I know what goes where. Good grief, not 9,000, not 95. There we go. And the last one over here, that one was Rude Awakenings, and Rude Awakenings was 101. So by putting the names in it, it's good practice anyway, but it also means that I know what's going where. Right, so let's get Rude Awakenings. There's Rude Awakenings. Don't want that opening on its own, but it's doing its own thing, so we'll get rid of it and put it on there. And I also want Plucking Plectrums, so let's drag that in and do the same thing. Right. There, was it that one? No, it's not that. Why is this open? Oh, that's why. Right, let's go back into here. There we go. So, I did not grab that. I swear I did not grab that one. Mind you, the full Monty would go nicely with Mike's Bot, wouldn't it? Leave it alone, girl. Right, I've selected more than one. That's my issue. Right. So I've got the two pieces of artwork that I need. I need Plucking Plectrums over here, and I need that one over there. But if I change it the way you're supposed to change a smart object, that's not going to work. So here's what I need to do. Right, this is 95, Plucking Plectrums. So if I open this up, there's my artwork, and there's my frame behind it. I open this up again, I've got my mask in there, and I've got my reflection in there. So if I just take the Plucking Plectrums artwork and stick it in there, it's disappeared. But it's disappeared because it's not physically in the right place in the artwork. But if I just drag it up so it is physically in the right place in the artwork, it's matched the colour of it. So if you see the colour we've got here with the muting that we've got with that reflection, that's what's muting the colour. So if I were to just take Rude Awakenings and put it on the top of there, just bring it up in the stacking order, it wouldn't look right. It wouldn't match. You're just plonking it on the top. You don't want to just plonk it on the top. You need to open up where it needs to be. So Rude Awakenings was 101. You need to put it in the right place in the stacking order below the reflection. And then have a zoom in and make sure that you know, artwork wise, we've not got anything like that gap at the bottom where we can see Mike's Bot. So let's drag that down so we can't see Mike's Bot. Right, although your preference might be to see Mike's Bot. Who knows? Right, they all look okay.
Or not.
You do it your way, dear, I'll do it mine. Right, the only thing we'd need to add to that is literally just what we did with the others, which is none of these have any shadow on it. But you would just need to go down and put some layer effects on it and put an outer shadow on it. Like thus. So hopefully we'll be able to see that. And which way round you would have it. The light looks like it's coming from the left. So maybe take that up to there and have that the other way. But that is all you would need to do. And now you've taken artwork that was... I mean, as long as it was what you wanted, fantastic. But if you need to make an adjustment to it and it's a free mock-up, as opposed to one that's going to cost you about £30 or £40, that's the difference with the £30 or £40. All that work that you saw me do has been done by the person selling it, and that's why it's more expensive. Okay. Oh, Peter's liking that. Excellent. Oh, Renee's just had his bedroom painted. Well, who wouldn't want a Mike's Bot? Special limited edition, signed. There you go, Renee. Lovely Christmas present.
Signed by who?
Your Bot.
Okay.
Right, so that was Mock-Up Lounge. There we go. I think that was, I saved that into the right place. So I just thought I would show you that. One, these things are free. It wouldn't matter if these were iPhones or iPads or anything like that. The principle is the principle is the principle. You just need to know what techniques to apply and how to apply them all. Oh, do we have all the Debs in? I do believe we have a full complement of Debs. That's amazing. Right, okay, let's get rid of that. Should I? No, I think I'll minimise it, because if I have to run it again, we'll be here all night. Okay, well, that's better. Right, oh, Mike, that's naughty of me. I didn't go to the... that's the Eagle address. Eagle's fabulous. And it's so cost effective, it's worth a go. I didn't go into that, Mike. So you'll have to... That should have been hours ago, but never mind. Right. I should have done that because
I'll work it out.
Did you know? I had all this organised. But let's have a recap. We took the first one and we turned it into the second one, which was lifting it off the background, rotating it and rescaling it. Then we moved on to the second one, which isn't any more difficult. The principles are identical, but it's how to handle multiple smart objects and make sure that you don't end up with the same smart object multiple times. To do that, you need to go in and you need to put those things in the right place in the stacking order. If you want to play along with that, there are the links, and there's also links in there for you to paste in, Mike. So you could do that as well.
I will do that.
Right, awesome. Let's move on to the next thing while Mike puts those links in. Of course I do, Peter. Of course I do. Right, coding with Braintoss. Right. When I say coding, I don't mean code. I don't mean writing code. Right, as you know, I have taken a course called Building a Second Brain. And within the course, there are various frameworks, methodologies, ideologies, whatever you want to call them. And one of them, the primary one, is called code. It is the core Build a Second Brain methodology. It stands for capture, organise, distill and express. So it's an iterative process, hence the arrows. But it starts on the left. You need to capture information or inspiration, and then you need to organise it, because the odds are you're capturing multiple sources. Then it needs organising. Once you've got all your information, you need to distill it. So if you think about how you read a book, you make highlights in it. So you're compressing it in some kind of way to either be more useful to you or more useful to other people, or maybe both. So if you think about taking the GTD book, distilling it would be taking from it what resonates most with you or what you find most useful. The expression part is creating something from it. So if we took something in terms of what I would do, say there's a new version of the Affinity apps out, which there was last February the 4th. And we had a show on the 5th. It's like, really? Biggest update of the year, the mails have gone, and now I've got 3 apps to deal with. So how do I go about capturing what I need to? Well, it'll probably come with release notes. It will probably have tutorial videos. So what I will sit down and do is capture the information. So there'll probably be a blog post with it as well. I will capture the blog post, the videos, any tutorials with it, any change logs that are there. That's me capturing it. But at that point, I'm concentrating on capturing it. I'm not concentrating on making notes from the video, because I can't do both at the same time. The organising of it is the next step. So I'll watch the video, I'll make notes on it. Which, if you think about it, I've captured it, I've then organised it, but then I'm making notes on it. Oh, that's capture again. So that's why you go backwards and forwards through this process. Once I've got the notes on it, and I've done the video notes, and I've done the release notes and all the rest of it, I need to distill it. I need to distill it into something that is like compressed and makes sense to me. The expression for me is that then I will teach you what is new. And that is the output. But if we focus on capture, capture's often the biggest bottleneck in the process, because you're capturing lots and lots of different things. As I've just said, there could be video, audio, text-based content, imagery, could be anything. So that's where Braintoss comes in, to address the bottleneck at the stage of capture. And the objective with Braintoss, it's an app for iOS, it's £2.49. It is to simplify the capture process. It can capture 3 things. It can capture notes, text, it can capture photos, and it can capture voice. It does that via a simple app. That's the interface to the app. That's it. That is it. You open it, that's what you see, and that's what you can do. The beauty of it is it also has an Apple Watch app to go with it. Notice the mock-up. Now, poor Kim, Zettelkasten. Zettelkasten's complicated. But capture is sometimes complicated. The problem with capture is we're past the time when it was difficult to capture. And what I mean by that is, when I was at university in London, and London is about 225 miles to my university. During the summer, I did not want to be going down to my university to use the library. So I headed the other way. I headed north. I headed 50 miles north to a different university called Lancaster. And I would use their law library. And what I would do when I was there is I would go into the library, I would get out what's known as the case reports, and I would find a case report that was one that I needed to work on, and I would photocopy it. So you were able to photocopy from the books. I mean, they had an entire room filled with photocopiers, but that was what you had to do. Not like it's all online like now. Oh, no. So for me, the problem with capture back then was I had to travel 50 miles and stay 3 days to do it. When I came back, I had a car full of photocopies, which I then went through with a fine tooth comb, highlighting bits and extracting bits, the bits I thought were important. At that point, the problem with capture was it was difficult to capture. It cost a lot of money and it took a lot of time. And there was a limit to what you could capture, as much as you could carry. Now we have a different problem. We still have a problem with capture, but now we have too much that we can capture. Now it's easy. So you tend to over capture. But there's also the other issue, which is it's complicated. Now that might seem like, well, no, you just see something and that you capture it. End of. That's it. True, but not quite. Because at the point you're going to capture something, where and what are you going to do with it? You're going to capture some text. Yes, I know. But do you want to read it later? Do you want it to put it on your calendar as an appointment? Is it something you need to do, or is it just a random note? And you've got to make that decision at the point that you capture it, because that determines where you're going to put it. And if you've got too many decisions to make, you're just not going to make any. You're just going to be no action with it. Your mentality will be, I'll do it later when I've got more time to think clearly and work out where I need to put it. It's too complicated. Braintoss aims to simplify it. It doesn't matter whether it's text, audio, a photo. In fact, it doesn't matter where it's going either. It could be a read it later app. It could be on your calendar. It could be a task. It could be a note. It doesn't matter. It's all going to end up in your inbox. So you start in one place in Braintoss, and you end up with it in one place, which is the inbox. And you stop at that point. You don't attempt to do anything else with it. It's a different job. You will deal with it down the line. But down the line, when you come to deal with it, you don't have to think about how to capture it, because it's all in one place. And you just start at the top and work your way through it and put it into your downstream apps, your read it later app, your calendar, your task manager, or your notes. It's simple. It's lovely. So, shall we see it? Fingers crossed this is actually going to work. Be grand if it did. Right, I'm going to share my screen. So let's try that for a start. Let's reflect that. Are you in a good mood? At least it's having a think about it. A long think about it. There we go. Right, so Braintoss is in the lower right left-hand corner. You'll notice my comms folder. 21 people want me. That's not good news. I'm on holiday, out of office. Right, so down here, this is Braintoss. And the screen is identical as to the one I've shown you. All right. You can capture voice, you can capture a photo, you can capture a note. So if I want to add a note, I tap that and up comes this window where I can literally just type. So Mike mentioned the other day that we hadn't got any milk. Why this would not be a crisis normally, but if I want a whippy dessert, it's going to be a major crisis. So I'm just going to say, buy milk. I could extend that, buy milk from Morrison's, because I do the Morrison's shop. There we go. Buy milk from Morrison's. I tap the send and that's it. I don't have to think about it anymore. I have this configured so it's sending me a mail. Now that might be like, oh dear. But then you've got your inbox. But I will show you how I deal with it at the other end. But that was, buy milk. I've also got that I can take a photo. So let's grab the book that Mike got. It's pitch black in here as well. Let's get a light on. I train in the dark. Right, let's go for a photo. Right, there's that book, the one that I mentioned. So I can just take a photo of that, and that's it. It's dealt with. That will also end up in my inbox. The next thing I've got is that I can, do a voice message of Mike coughing, that kind of thing. Right, let me do a voice message. So, record a MacBites. And I just tap stop, that's it. Now my voice message has gone as well. So all I have to do is open one app and tap one of the three icons, and I can capture that type of information. In terms up here, it's going to my email, but there's lots of things that I could do in here in terms of having a quick history, seeing the history that I've got, clearing the history, anything else. You can add multiple email addresses. So one thing you could do is have it sent to Evernote as a backup, or anything that will accept an email address. But I'm just having this sent through to my main email address, and I'm not concerned in the slightest about it. And that's it. I could do it on my watch as well. I've done it on my watch and it's absolutely fine. Looks like the other thing. On your watch, you can only do the voice thing, but it's very, very accurate. So that is what it looks like on the phone there. Let's get rid of that. So where's my mouse pointer gone? There you are. Oh, up you toddle. So let's get out of that. And somewhere I've got... oh, do we only have the one? I could have sworn I did that. Right, what I'm going to do at this end is... I think it's logged me out of Gmail. Oh, it's logged me out of Google again. Because I'm in the middle of a live show. Oh, and at least it's letting me use my watch to get in. So let me log into Google, and then you can see my inbox. Come on, have a think about it. Right, it's in. So what I'm going to do is show you what this looks like. So let's get that on there. That is my inbox. In fact, it's a folder in my inbox, but never mind. That's my inbox. Right, I have a dedicated folder for Braintoss. And you can see it's got 3 items in it. With a bit of luck, they're going to be the 3 items that I've just added. So I'll click on there. The 2 at the bottom are the initial mails that you get. So this is when I signed up for it. That's what it looks like. And here's the instructions in a text format attached. Then you get this one, which is your welcome email, and it links to tutorials and stuff. But the ones that we're concerned about are these. So this one here was my text-based one, where I typed in buy milk from Morrison's and it's come through. It's also put it through as a text file, so I could quickly download that, or I could add it to my Google Drive. But that's enough. It's even in the title. So once I've got that and I'm at my desk, I can think, oh, I'll put that in my to-do manager, or I could just go to Morrison's and add it to the basket. So that's my first one. The second one was my photo. So it says, here's your Braintoss, because in this circumstance, we didn't stop to give it any text or tell it to OCR it or anything else either. It did that down here. And from here, I should be able to actually see it. So, oh, and that's my little gargoyle, in case you're wondering why I've got a foot on the desk. But that's my book. So I took a photo of that, add it in. That's just a reminder of me to do something with it. So, maybe find an alternative, maybe find the right getting things done or something like that. But that's the photo. This one was my note to myself. It cut off at the B, strangely. But if I don't know what that meant, then I've got this audio file that I can actually listen to. We can't hear that too well, but let's give it a go. Record a Mac. Now, because we've got a bit of loop back, but the audio is fine. The audio is actually fine and usable. I don't know why it didn't get the word bytes, but there you go. That is literally what it does. But to me, everything lands in a single place. So that's a huge advantage, and it solves half the problems with the capture part of it. But I don't want friction at the point of capture. That solved a problem, but there's been an update this week to another app, so I'm going to look at that next week. So it's all about capture and how to do it quickly. Because if I have to think, if you just look at the three things there, so I need to make a note to record a MacBites, I need to find the David Allen book, and I need to buy some milk. They're three different things. If I think, I need to buy some milk, my next thought would be, where am I going to put that? Should I put it in a to-do? Should I just add it as a note to myself? Should I send myself a text? I've got to make decisions. I don't want to think. I don't want to think at that point. Because when your brain is relaxed, that's when it starts to remind you that you need the milk. And if your reaction to that is, where should I put that? Then the next idea is not going to come. And the third idea is not going to come because now your brain has head off somewhere else. So the idea with capture is to get it done as fast and as efficient as possible. And anything that helps with that is fantastic. I know that you then have to come in here and you have to process it. But at this stage, you're focused on getting to inbox 0 for Braintoss. So as soon as you've done that, it's just archive, 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 or delete, 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 and then move on. And I know that each one of those three things can only go in one of four places. It's either something that I want to read, it's something that I want to do, it's something that I want to put on my calendar, or it's something I just want to make a note of. And that's it. I only have 4 decisions at that point. But in addition to those 4 decisions, at the point of capture, you've got so many different ways to capture it that you multiply the 4 by however many capture options you have. And before you know it, you've got to make a choice out of 40 or 50 different things. And that's when you freeze and think, I'll remember it, I'll do it later. And you won't capture it at all because you're putting too much effort into thinking about how you are going to capture it. So there you go. Braintoss salad. Yeah, that'll work. But it's £2.49. It's genius. It is. It's genius. I love that. I have been working where I capture text, and I don't have any problem capturing text at all. I can even capture audio. But it's when you get to the photos and you think, I'll go through my photo roll, and you don't. You don't. That's the problem. Right, okay then. Freebie. I'm going to do the same one as last week. Make sure you're all signed up, which is the MacBites Advent Calendar freebie, which is coming to you every day in December. Look, there's the first 3 all done. That's actually Notion where we're tracking it. And tomorrow's is ready to send. So we're doing rather well with that. If you want not to miss any of these, then you need to be signed up to the MacBites list. That's where they come from. So it's macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. As you've seen, we did the custom compile in Scrivener, which is still available. So even if you miss the first few mails, if you join on day 5, you will still get links to the other stuff. There was the logos that we did. And who doesn't want today's stuff to play around with? Because if you can work with those, you'll be able to do that with any free mock-ups that you get. So macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. And now we're on to Mike, who's calculating his columns, aren't you, dear?
I am.
Right, let's get over to you then. Let's key you up. You've covered your desktop up, haven't you? That's always good news. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And he's live.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, I introduced you to the query editor in Excel, and we looked at cleaning up importing data, which is also known as data transformation. It was things like find and replace to set the leave date to which was set to the 1st of January 1900, and that was done when the data was imported. Set that to blank. In fact, so you know what I'm talking about, let me show you the data. So it's the same file as last week. If I go to data, first of all, if I go to Power Pivot and Manage, you'll see that the data is not in the spreadsheet. The data is sitting in the data model, and then we can build pivot tables and whatever later on. But if we want to clean the data up, we need to go into the query editor by going to, first of all, data, queries and connections, which brings up that panel on the right hand side and shows us every query that's in this file. And then if I right click on that query and click edit, that will open up the query editor. So at least now you can see what I'm talking about, as I'm just doing a quick review from last week. Yeah, we had, when I imported the data, the date of birth was showing, not the date of birth, the leaving date was showing as the 1st of January 1900. So I did a find and replace on that to make that appear as a blank. So anybody with a blank leaving date is still employed by the company. I also hid the rows where there is a leaving date, so that's why they're not showing now. So to just leave the people who are employed. And I also removed TET from the beginning of the employee number. So those were just a few basic examples of data cleaning. And then last week we started to look at how to create additional columns. If you remember, I created a country code column, and what that did is it extracted the first 2 characters of the location name where each employee is based and converted it to uppercase. I also created an age column, which was based on today's date minus the date of birth, so that calculates the age. And I think there was 1 or 2 other things that I showed you as well. But the way that I did that is I didn't actually do any coding. I didn't do any manual coding. I did it all through the add column menu and some of these buttons here. So what we'll do today is we'll carry on that demo and look at some more examples of creating columns. But just before I do, I just want to mention steps. That's not the group. Steps on the right hand side of the screen. And when you use one of those buttons on the ribbon to create a new column, or actually to perform any transformation or data cleaning, Power Query creates a step. And inside each step is the code needed to perform that step. So if I just randomly click on any of these steps here, you will see some code up here in the formula bar. That code is written in a language called M. And if coding isn't your thing, you can actually totally ignore that. You can create most things without writing a single line of M. But if coding is your thing, or you just want to have a tinker around with it, then the M code is there for you. You can actually write the M code from scratch rather than clicking a button on the ribbon, getting it to write the M code and then you editing it. But you know, I always say it's not a bad idea to have at least an appreciation of M, because there are, despite me saying you can create most things without knowing M, there are 1 or 2 things that you can't do where you do have to get your hands dirty, as they say, and play around with the M code. But yeah, the first demo I'm going to do, and this was one I showed last week, was combining the first character of the first name with the surname. I did show that last week, but I did it using the buttons on the toolbar. So I selected the 2 columns, and then I did add column, a merge column, and I merged the 2 together. But to do that, I ended up with 2 steps. The first step extracted the first character of the first name, and then the second step merged that with a full stop and the surname. And there is another way to do it, and that's to write the formula yourself and end up with just 1 step. So this is how I do it. I click on add column and then custom column. And I need actually to be at the end of this list, so I'll cancel that. Go to the last step and do that again. So add column, custom column. Give the column a name. So I will call it employee name. And the formula here is going to be text.start, open brackets, and then select the first name column by double clicking on it from this list, then a comma, then 1, then close bracket. Text.start is an M command, which means pull out a certain number of characters, and that's how you tell it how many characters from that column there. So it's actually very, very much like the left function in Excel. One thing to note about M is that it is case sensitive. So it's got to be a capital T and a capital S. So text.start first name comma 1. So that grabs the first character of the first name. Ampersand, which just like Excel can be used to join things together. Then a full stop in between double quotes. Then another ampersand, and then surname. So that formula is going to combine together the first character of the first name field with a full stop with a surname, and click on OK. And there is our employee name column. So that is one example of what you can do by writing a formula yourself. If you actually have a look at the formula, what the formula is doing is adding a column. The column is going after the reordered columns one step, which you can see down here. The column's going to be called employee name, and for each row in this table, perform that formula. So that I've highlighted is the formula, but I would say the whole thing you can say is the instruction written in M. Now, what if I wanted to do a similar thing to get the country code, which remember was the first two characters of the location but capitalized. So the first thing I'll do is I'll actually delete that column and then recreate it, but instead of recreating it by just clicking buttons, I'll actually create it with a formula. So add column, custom column, call it country code, and then the formula is going to be text.upper, which has to be written like that, capital T, capital U, text.upper, and then in brackets, text.start, open brackets, location, comma 2, and 2 closing brackets at the end, because there's 2 open brackets. So that's going to take the first 2 characters of the location field and convert it to uppercase. And there we go. So that's exactly the same as doing it with the buttons. As I say, some people will find it easier using the buttons. It might take you 2 or 3 steps, but it means there's no coding and no formula writing. Other people like the challenge of writing in a case-sensitive language. That's a little dig at Microsoft, by the way. The problem is when you're trying to teach somebody how to use M and there's no real rules about case sensitivity, it's very difficult. Another one to show you is how to create a monthly salary column. So the monthly salary column, there's the annual salary, but we don't have a monthly salary. And maybe back in the spreadsheet, I want to create a pivot table that shows monthly salary per department. So I've got 2 ways to do this. I can do it the formula way, add column, custom column, and create a column and call it monthly salary, and then put annual salary divided by 12. So that's one way to do it, and there's my monthly salary column, which I will now delete. The other way to do it is through the nice friendly interface. First of all, make sure that you have highlighted the annual salary column, and then click on Add Column, Standard, Divide, type in at 12 and click OK. And there you get a new column, and we can just rename that column instead of division, just rename it monthly salary. Can't spell, never mind. So you can even do plus, minus, divide and multiply directly off the ribbon. And then the last one I will show you tonight is how we can calculate everybody's retirement age. I'm going to assume that they have to retire at 70, or they're advised to retire at 70. So what I'm going to do for this one is basically add 70 years onto their date of birth. So I can just click anywhere and click Add Column, Custom Column, call it Retirement Date, and put equals date dot add years, open brackets, select the date of birth column, comma, and 70. Even if you don't remember all of these formulas and functions, and there we go, we've actually got the date there that is when each person will be 70. But yeah, even if you don't remember all these formulas and functions, it's like Excel. It's knowing that these things are available, and just you can find them when you need them. Google it or whatever. But it's knowing what the capability is, and the Power Query, the query editor, is very, very powerful. So if I actually just close down the query editor and keep the changes, then I will just finally go back to the data model, and in the data model we now have all of the information that we've just calculated. Okie dokie, so that is a continuation of last week on calculated columns in the query editor, and next week there will be more of the same.
Right, okay.
Do we have any questions?
I'll get that up. And then fingers crossed everything will work, but probably not.
So Kim says 2061, I'll be dead by then.
I'm living forever, which I'll have to, the way that the retirement age keeps going up.
That's what Peter says.
Right, okay, let's get on with our Scrivener Masterclass, where we're looking at building a solution, part 2. So just to quickly recap what's been going on. You've all been following, haven't you? Oh, that works well. Should we try that again? Thank you, PowerPoint. Right. There's lots of metadata in Scrivener. The scrivening is the main item. The unit of content is the main item, and you've got all this meta around it. Particularly last week, I showed that I had labels. I use labels a lot. So the labels I have are pending, work in progress, complete, soft hold and hard hold. Soft hold is where I can't do anything with it right now before I do something else, but I can do the something else. A hard hold means I can't do anything with this until I do something else, and I can't do the something else because I'm waiting for something. A hard hold was when I was in the middle of a Pixelmator course, and they had introduced this fantastic new feature in beta, and I needed to include it in my course, and it hadn't come out. And I'm like, you're seriously joking me. I was waiting and waiting. It went to the death, and I had this one video that was marked hard hold. So that's why it's kind of a ready colour, and it's like a traffic light system. It makes sense to me. I also use the status as well, though, and while there is some overlap, there's also quite a bit of difference. The other thing that you saw me do last week was I used the keywords, and I had a keyword that was green, which meant the Camtasia file existed, and I had an orange one, which meant that the PowerPoint file existed. Now, I'm going to abstract us away from looking at Scrivener because it can be completely overwhelming, and simplify it to talk you through it. You have various places within Scrivener where you can add content. First, you have the binder. You have to have an item in the binder to be able to put the text in the main bit, which is the scrivening or the document. Then you have the synopsis in the top right. You also have below that the notes. The thing is, where should you put stuff and why? So you've got those areas. That's where content's going to go, but which content? And there's one rule. Be consistent with where you put something. So, for example, if you have the title of a chapter. You could put that in the binder. You could put it as an item in the main scrivening. You could put it in, and we're talking here across different items, different scrivenings. You could decide, well, I'll put the title in the synopsis. That makes sense. And before you know it, you're putting the title in the notes as well. Don't use different locations for the same information in each scrivening. If the title is in the binder in the first scrivening, keep it there in all the other scrivenings, and that consistency will serve you well as you move forward. So what should you put in the binder titles then? Well, they're good for section titles or headings, or chapter titles or headings. The biggest bit of information is probably going to go in the scrivening itself, in the big editor, because that's best suited for long form content. The synopsis contains free-form text, so what should go in there? Well, it works well as a summary, but it works equally well for other information. So how do you decide what to use it for? And the easiest thing to do is remember that the synopsis content can be toggled on or off in outline view. So add the content that you're most likely to want to see in the outline, and that will serve you well. The notes panel is another place for free-form text, and you can put as much text in there as you want. It could be used to host a summary, but we've decided summaries are good in the synopsis, but it could also be any other relevant information. But the rule is just be consistent. Now, I've said it twice, but why? And it's literally because that consistency is what makes compile work and will save you a ton of time. So let's check out that file we were working on last week and take it to the next level. Right, it was this one. Now, I have been incredibly consistent with where things need to be. For a start, the organisation on the left-hand side is perfect. So I've got my inbox and I've got my journal, I've got the actual course content, I've separated out the front matter, I've got my notes, my research, my reference, I've got system management, and I've got my templates. So everything is lovely and organised in that binder, but that's not where organisation finishes, that's only where it starts. I have decided in the scrivening that's going to be my script. So this bit here is the script. I then have a split screen and show the course content. But in here, I want to see detail as well, because if you think about it, it would be nice to know what each of these headings were. If we look down at the bottom, cheat sheet for what? What is it? The recording, what about it? So if we look higher up, I've got some text and it actually outlines it. That text is the synopsis because it says title and synopsis, and the synopsis is over here. So this text always matches up with whatever is selected in there. You can toggle that off. You don't have to have the synopsis showing. But if you don't have the synopsis showing and you're thinking, what was that bit again? Then you have to click on it to actually look at it. So sometimes it's useful to have that synopsis turned on in here. And if you've decided, well, I'll finish with that bit, then you can fold it up anyway and simplify it. But to make it work, this is the summary, this is the summary, this is the summary. Then every time I add content to the synopsis, this has to be the summary. And it is. Without exception, everyone that has a summary, everyone that has something in the synopsis, it's a summary. Okay? My notes I use for something entirely different in here than I would in a MacBites. In here, have we got one that is not done? Right. In here, I've put notes to myself as to what I need to put in. So I need to update the slides to include the Blue Yeti Nano and the Blue Yeti X. This one, all done. So if it's complete, I actually take the time and put all done. That one's all done. That one's all done. This one not, but I haven't written down what I need. And as I go into here, that's all done. Add a fade between the last two slides. So it's instructions to myself. No one else is going to see it. It's in the notes. I can compile it if I want, but also I don't have to compile it if I don't want. So the consistency is the notes to myself about the status and what needs doing, or whether it's complete or not, all in the notes. And the summary, all in the synopsis. So what does that mean when it comes to compiling out of this particular file? And this is the point that everything pulls together. And you think, oh, wow, because you've done it right, now this is a doddle. Mike was showing me a document that he'd made, and it was an outline for a course. And I said, did you do this in Word? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what happens if you change your running order? Well, I've got to change the Word document. Oh, Mike, put it down and let me show you this. Right, a running order would include the course title. It would include each section, the modules here, and the individual lessons themselves. But an outline is just that. It's brief, it's an outline. But I might need a script, I might need a status report. I can produce all of these through Compile from the same information. So you've seen the information. What I've got in my formats for Compile in here, let's start off with a script for PDF. Just in case I want to make a script for myself. Notice I am changing nothing. The course content is what's going to be compiled, and I'm changing nothing. Every single thing that changes is changing because I choose a different format that has already been done. So I compile that, and what I'm looking for, that one is the script. So let's compile that into there. It will open up, and that is indeed my script, the whole script for the whole thing. There is some colour further down where I've got some red bits and orange bits for things. But that is the entire thing that's written so far. That is my script. The grey bits are reference for me, just in case I want to throw some extra bits in. But that's the whole script, and that is 33 pages of the content. Most people, that's what they would expect to see from this file. Because when you look at this file, it's in here. It's in the Scrivening. That's it. As you go from Scrivening to Scrivening, that's got anything in it, right? That's what's in it. But I'm going to need a course outline for this as well. So let's say I wanted a simple text-based outline, not making any changes, just hitting compile. The only thing I've changed is which project format I'm using. And this one is my outline. Let's open that. And that's what Mike had in Word. Beauty of having it in here, if I decide I'm moving audio accessories to the end of it, I'll do it and then just press a button and get a new outline. And I don't have to think about it. That is a simple outline and it's text-based. But in here, because I have other compiles, I have a simple outline, but this one is actually numbered. So if I compile that one, outline numbered, and again, I'm not making any changes. I don't have to think about this anymore. I have set this up and it set it up, set it and forget it. So that one is exactly the same content, but this time it's got numbers at the beginning if people want to see the numbers. I also have the ability from the same information to make a detailed outline. Oh, what's a detailed outline? Well, a detailed outline's got more information if people want to read it. So outline detailed. What information would they need? Well, what they're getting is this bit here under each heading. So this is a lesson, the Blue Yeti family. But this bit that you're seeing in grey, this is the summary. This is the synopsis. So the only difference between this and the last compile is that I've said, and by the way, include the synopsis. Down here, I haven't got any synopsis text, so you're not seeing it there. But where I have synopsis text, it just adds it. Because I've created that compile setting, never have to touch it again. If I want to change the font or something, then go in and change it. But in terms of the content, don't need to do a thing. It's all coming from the same content within Scrivener, and it's working like a charm because you have been consistent with what you put in each area within Scrivener. I just love that I can just produce an outline and then we're off to the races. Right, further on than that, we also have, so file compile. We've had our simple text outline, we've had a simple one that's numbered, we've had a detailed one, and we've had a script. How about a status report? Oh, at the push of a button, a status report. So, compile that. And this one is our status report. Again, not doing a thing, don't have to add anything at the point of compile, it's just going to work. Let's compile that one. This is a front cover that I can add images to, or whatever I want to do. That puts me the title at the top. But the business of it is in here. And what I've done is I've said to it, I want every module to start on a new page. So this has one video in it. And this is what needs to be done with it. So that bit there, all this text, this is what needs to be done with it. Where did it come from? It's the notes. It's the text I added in the notes. So as we go through it, you can see I've done some quick brown fox here, so we've got something to look at. That's made at the section level. And then within here, all done, all done. And as I go through, I've got script needs to accommodate smaller Blue Yeti models. This needs a careful check because the radius has changed. The pop filter's no longer available. Wouldn't be, would it? That's what my pictures are of. So this is a status report. It gives me a one-stop shop for all that needs to be done away from Scrivener. I don't have to sit at Scrivener and think, oh, no. You know, I've got to go through every individual scrivening and then like, what was on number 5? I've extracted it. I've abstracted the status report away from Scrivener. So I can focus on just what needs to be done without actually getting overwhelmed with Scrivener at the same time. That is one of the most useful. But as I say, that's because I've decided to put the status report information in the notes. If I decided to put something else in the notes, then this status report would accommodate whatever that was. So inside a MacBites, in the notes, we have the show notes. All the links that comprise the show notes are in the notes section. And when we compile it, we don't compile it like that to a lovely layout. We compile it to plain text to copy and paste into the website. And Scrivener can handle all of that. Depends on how you configure it. And how you configure it is dependent on what output you want. And in my case, those were the outputs that I wanted. The one thing Scrivener can't do, though, so that's a lovely compile, which is just brilliant. Love it. It doesn't add up that well. So if I wanted to track in here how long these videos were, and thus how long is the course, not the way to do it. Not the way to do it. But there is a way to do it. So in my either notes or reference for this, maybe. Yeah, I've got some extra stuff in there. What I could do with this is just add in some way to track it. So I've got this file, which I'll open so you can see it. It's having a rare old think about it, and it's opened it up on the wrong screen. Right, I'm not actually using this at the moment, which is why you'll see it says Pixelmator. But what I've done is, I've renamed it and said how to get great audio from your Blue Yeti. It's a numbers file. The sheet is called Blue Yeti at the top. And what I will do is update this to include the stuff from the actual lessons that I'm doing. And then I will put in the estimate and the duration. So sometimes you're a mile off. You estimate it to be 2 minutes and it's 9, right? But then what I do over here is put the cumulative time. So 2 minutes 5 and then becomes 10 minutes 44 and so forth. Meaning at the bottom, I've got what I estimated the course to be and what it actually was. So I was 23 minutes out with that one. But 23 minutes out over 27 lectures isn't bad. Right, so that's my numbers file. It's got all my calculations in it, but you know it's a numbers file. That's not good news for a start, is it? But what I can do with it is actually add it into here. So if I bring this across, there is my Blue Yeti demo file. I can just drag and drop that into the notes, and you will see it comes in with a numbers icon. And when I click on it, and what I'm going to do is close the other view down. I don't even need to preview it. Previews itself. There it is. And I can see the information in there. I can open that up in Numbers from there and edit it and bring it, I don't have to do anything to bring it back in. I open it from there. It opens that copy. I make my changes to it. As soon as I save it, it updates it inside Scrivener. And now I have the ability to calculate time within Scrivener as well. So the compile settings and the embedding of the numbers spreadsheet just put the cherry on the top for using Scrivener for course creation. The whole thing is self-contained within a Scrivener file. And when Notion came along, I was like, oh, shiny, let's do course creation in Notion. I thought, well, it would look pretty in terms of there's a gallery. Lovely. But it isn't going to be able to calculate quite like that, and it isn't going to be able to output like that. So the biggest thing that Notion would stand no chance with is the compile. And that's why my course creation stuff is still inside Scrivener. You can bring numbers files in. You can bring in a whole range of files, Carol. So if you wanted to bring in, say somebody, you've compiled it out to Word and then they've put notes on it, you can bring that in here. If that was a Word file, for example, you could split the screen and you could have your comments on one side, and on the other you could have your manuscript and work on the two at the same time. So it works. You can embed anything in it. Anything that you can embed anywhere, you can embed in here. So if it's a Mac file, it will probably work in here. And it just makes the whole process an absolute joy to do. Right, okay, so if you want to see one of those compiles as to how you actually do it, let me know, and I can fit that in next week. But we've got lots of things to look at, haven't we? Because there's so much coming up. Yes, next week, the 10th. First week of our holiday. Hopefully we'll make it that far, won't we? Before one or other of us ends up somewhere that we don't want to be. But yes, we are back, 1:58. 10th next week. In fact, we are here every Friday in December. So 17th, 24th is Christmas Eve. Fully appreciate it if you're busy, but if not, it was the night before Christmas, our standard Christmas show. We'll also be going live New Year's Eve. So basically it's two parties for the last 2 Fridays in December. That'll be good because we'll let the new year in with you on the 31st. It'll be grand. When we've got a date, but it's becoming nearer, we're going to have a Marooned at MacBites headquarters, the reunion. So as soon as we've got a date, we will let you know. Into 2022, I know, how did that happen? But let us know what you'd like to see on the channel in 2022. What would you like us to cover? We would love to hear from you. Right, and on demand, we have youtube.com/ElaineGiles, where you can get all of our previous shows. There is a playlist, macbites.co.uk/after hours playlist, where you will find everything going back to show number 1, which was chaotic's the word. Chaotic. If you think it's bad now, you should have seen it then. Right, there will be a MacBites at some point, and when there is, it'll premiere on MacBites FM. We love you guys. If you love us, can you give us a like? Because it really makes a difference with YouTube. Right, we have got, obviously, our mails. So there's our VIP mail, which is all my stuff. Of more significance at the moment, there's the MacBites mail, because that's where the Advent freebies are, and you won't want to miss any. So sign up there. We're also in Slack 24/7, carrying on the conversation. Have great fun in Slack. It's free to join, macbites.co.uk/Slack. And we have an absolute ball in there. We'll probably be in there Christmas Day, won't we?
Probably.
Yeah, not having seen another living soul for years.
Carol wants to know if you've ever taught HTML.
I did years ago, yeah. Have we ever done it on After Hours?
Probably not.
I looked at Whisk. I looked at Whisk a while ago, which is a HTML editor. But not directly, no. But why not? We'll put that down as a request from Carol. Right, and there's our contact details as well. Kim would like to see taking info from Zotero and putting it into Scrivener if it can be done. I believe it can. I think it links in with, what's the other one called? Bookends. I'm not sure. I don't think there's as much of a link with Zotero as other apps. but might be worth having a look at. So we'll put that on the list as well. Any other requests, get them in now. Sooner the better you get added to the list, because that's one of the jobs we've got this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorting out upcoming shows. Kim, let me know what you were struggling with in Notion, and we can have a look at that as well. I did make some more bulk importers. What did I last bulk import? The mails, I think. I got sick of doing it. I had them on a template button, and while that was grand, you were doing it week by week. So I decided, never mind that for a game of soldiers. And I bulk imported a lot. I think I bulk imported about 500. And now I just have to put the time on, which I could have bulk imported, but I didn't know when I was sending them. So once I did know when I was sending them, that was it. Oh, and CSS. Now, CSS is grand. CSS is great. To what level are you looking at about knowing this, Carol? Where are you at with it? Kim says, thanks so much, Elaine and Mike. You guys are great and the show's great. I'm glad you enjoy it, Kim. Glad you enjoy it. Ted's there. Hello. Tried to find the Slack channel through the Slack app on the Mac. No luck. Don't know through the Slack app, but if you go to the URL in a browser, you should be fine. So if you go to macbites.co.uk/Slack, it should redirect you and then automatically add you wherever. So try the link. Awesome. So, do we have any more questions then? Do we have questions or comments or queries or anything else? So, you're pretty basic at the moment. What is it you're trying to do? Is it make web pages with it, or is it use HTML in WordPress or something like that? I mainly only use HTML now directly in my emails, and even they come from Scrivener. That's another compile. CSS is handy in a lot of places, of course, including Rome. Rome relies on CSS. My Rome looks pretty now because I've used lots of CSS. The tags that are important, like the MacBites tag is orange. The after hours tag is blue. So everything is colour-coded to within an inch of its life. For web pages, well, not too tricky then for web pages. Yeah, we could do that. We could code a few web pages, couldn't we? We'll put it on our list. There you go. We've still got a couple of weeks, I think, with Scrivener. So let me know which of those compiles you'd like to see how to be done. And I can have a look at making them. I didn't take you through the process because the process is like, once you can do one, you can do them all. You just got to think, what is it I want compiled? What is it I want included? And then you'd be good to go. Coding to make Hazel work better. There you go. Oh, and Rome for pretty. I can't remember where I got my base CSS for Rome, but I just went with it. But it's the tags the tags float my boat. Let's put it like that. You're very welcome, Ted. Awesome. Look forward to seeing you in there. Right. In that case, if there is nothing else, we will head off and I can have a flapjack, can't I?
Yeah.
Not a MacBites flapjack, I might add. No, not one of Mike's specials. It's shop bought, which is very secondary to your stuff, Very secondary.
Oh,
but maybe we'll have time over Christmas because we're on holiday. Did I mention we're on holiday? Fabulous. Love it. Right, okay then. So for the moment, I am going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time, or even see you in Slack sooner than that. But for the moment, good night from me, good night from
me.
Good night from Mike, and we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.